Primrose, we're ready to go.
All right. I have 5:30 or call this meeting to order. I want to thank everybody for allowing me to be on Google because I didn't want to get people sick. I'm feeling better and hopefully we can get through this. First is Pledge of Allegiance. Would everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the Zia symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
All right, thank you. A little delay.
Just a little.
Okay, the next on the agenda is roll call. Ms. Gladwin will be followed.
Miss Teresa Stevenson. Here. Mr. Tom Sidwell.
Here.
Mr. Philip Box.
Here.
Mr. Jimmy Sandoval.
Here.
And Mr. Richard Primrose.
Here.
Okay.
All right. Item here. Next is approval of the agenda. Everybody has a copy of the agenda. I think there's one change on the executive session. That will be an action item. Correct? Is that the only change that we have on the agenda?
Yes, I think so. We just need to add action to item number 9 on the agenda.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Miss Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell.
Yes.
Mr. Box.
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
And Mr. Primrose.
Yes.
And the motion carried.
All right. Next is public comments. Were there any comments submitted?
No, sir, not at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Next will be approval of the minutes for the special meeting in September 12th. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes or any additions or deletions? Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes for September 12th.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sidwell.
Yes.
Mr. Box.
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
Mr. Primrose.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
And the motion carried.
Thank you. Next is the chairman's report. The only thing I have is I wanted to thank everybody for all of their hard work for the HLC visit. I think it went very well. We had a really good meeting with HLC, and I think they had a good meeting with all of the faculty and staff. So I appreciate everybody's hard work for that meeting, for setting it up. And also I want to thank Senator Woods for speaking at the U.S. Constitution Day. I think he did an excellent job, and it was well participated, and appreciate all the students coming and everybody to come for that. That's all I have. We'll move on to the reports, and the first one is for Dr. Moss.
So you all have my report. Just add a couple of things to it first. I want to thank you all for coming to the HLC visit and the Constitution Day. I think it's important whenever you can to be present at those things and interact with the staff and the students. And I think the three of you that were at the Constitution commemoration, you know, it was a good chance to visit, for you all to visit with Cinder Woods. I know we visited with some students, visited with some staff, but it's also a good chance for you guys to interact with them. And I think that's only going to benefit us as a college. We're going to get into the 23 budget amendment request here in a little bit. Ms. Sharmer has been working on that, kind of following up on work Blanca did. And so she's, again, a consultant. She's a retired CFO from NIMI, and we're going to keep her, you know, to kind of help guide us through this, what we're going through right now, and especially now that you know, Blanca's leaving, we want that continuation of someone with experience in New Mexico higher ed finance. So she did the work on the amendment that we're going to look at here in a little bit, and so I really appreciate her. I want to add also, we're adding a retired controller who also worked for New Mexico Military Institute for many years, to give us a little more support in our business office. Again, just until, well, one, to get us through and to kind of train in New Mexico higher ed finance, but also especially to get us through this next time period. I also wanted to mention, you know, in particular, our rodeo coming up October 13th and 14th. It's not just our normal college rodeo. We're hosting 2 rodeos in those 2 days, and so we'll have like the slack and things during the day with a finals Friday night, and then Saturday we'll turn around and do the same thing again. And it's a good opportunity for us, one, that we were asked to host a second rodeo, which speaks a lot to our program and Coach Hughes, and it also gives our students a chance to get 2 rodeos under their belt without a lot of travel. So it's a win-win for us, and we're going to try to promote that, you know, in the community, because there'll be a whole lot more to see for everybody. And then, let's see, there was one other thing I wanted to kind of highlight. Oh, RPSP, thank you all for meeting and approving that. I did get a message this morning that we have a few things we need to fix or correct. I haven't had a chance to tell that to Mr. Kaiser or Mr. McVeigh, but you know, that was something we needed to get done, and I appreciate you all having that special meeting after your HLC visit. Other than that, I'm ready to go into the action items unless you guys have any questions. Yes.
Update of the bank account, authorization and signature. Dr. Mark?
Yeah, so the authorization, there's a few things we need to clean up. One, with Blanca leaving, we need to take her name off of some of the things. You know, that was an audit finding back in our 21 audit a couple months ago, and so we want to keep up to date on that. And so there are a few places where we'll be putting Tammy Hall in temporarily, but also we need to add Mr. Primrose to the bank accounts. The last time we did that, he was not yet a part of the board, and so we need to get his name on that. And that's the majority of the changes. There's also, I think New Mexico Bank and Trust still had some of the old names on, and but we want to give each financial institution the names of people that we want on those accounts.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah?
Y'all
Just can't see.
are.
Maybe his connection.
Yeah.
There you go. We didn't say anything while you were off.
I was fixing to text you, but it froze up. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So, I lost you. Everything went dead. But we are ready to approve the signatory for all of the banks and financial institutions. Correct? I'll entertain a motion to approve. Unless there's questions.
I'll make a motion that we approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Box?
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. Primrose?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. And Mr. Sidwell?
Yes.
And the motion carried.
All right. Thank you. Next is revised FY 23 bars. Dr. Moss, you want to go into that?
Sure. So, again, Blanca did a lot of work to get us to where she did, and then Ms. Sharmer has been working the last few weeks on trying to, look at her budget, see what maybe we need to fix or change to get to smooth the process through HED and DFA. And, in that time, there were some formulas and math that she found in the 23 bar, the last one that was submitted. And so what we were wanting to do was maybe even work on budget numbers, but we're not going to touch those right now. I expect we will, in October, November, when we get a better picture of a 22 audit and more and more lined out. And so right now we're not approving the budget, but we do need to make an adjustment to the 23 bar and the report of actuals that we submit to HED. And so if you look on step 1 and step 2, there's a pretty significant increase on the revenues and the expenses, which is mainly due to what we started out with a budget in 2022. We went way beyond that in our actuals, and so this is basically the report shows this is what we actually spent. And so the correction that Ms. Sharmer is telling us that we need to make to that report of actuals is $1,097,000. And so that doesn't change our current position. It doesn't change how much cash we have in the bank. It's just as we progress correcting errors or cleaning up information from the past 2 years, it kind of changes the numbers on the front end, if that makes sense. So this is just one more, the work that the business office has done, and some of our consultants from, even a month ago to now, those numbers continually change. And my hope is, the 22 audit, I forgot to mention this earlier, she's still, the auditor's still looking at hopefully getting that completed within a week or so. get started on the 23 audit. We've already heard from the state auditor on the special audit, and they're already collecting information on it. You know, we're going to get to a point where we send a report in, and it's based on accurate final data. But right now, this is a correction that we need to make.
All right, I know you were on the road, not long, but they also did another, in exhibit 4A and exhibit 4B. Did you get a chance to look at that?
I just forwarded it to you all. That's about, just to be perfectly honest.
You know, this exhibit, the A and B exhibit, it actually makes adjustments to the budget.
Right.
And so, that's one of the questions I asked of you is do we make adjustments to the budget, or are we just increasing the expenses? And so the original bar was to increase the expenses, but these two supplementals, A and B, they actually break it down, and there's some itemized adjustments, which is great. This is what I think we've been needing for some time. So it gives a better picture of where, instead of just adding over $1 million to our expenses, but it shows where those expenses are and how we're actually going to make up for those additional expenses through either cash reserves or transfers. So I think this is a really good report so that we can follow it real closely instead of just having one number that we're going to adjust expenses by over $1 million. So this breakdown is extremely good. I think. So did everybody else have an opportunity to look at these other two exhibits?
Yep. It's hard to imagine.
Questions?
It's hard to imagine that you can have $1 million difference. How does that happen?
Well, you know, like one of our budgets we submitted, you know, sometimes it's a simple, I know it sounds kind of silly, but sometimes it's a mathematical error, or maybe, you know, like one time where we started to submit a budget, we didn't have the 1.6 million. We knew we were going to carry it over to this year, but we didn't put it into the formula. And so this, I think, you know, when you're trying to take all that data in and put it into that report of actuals, it's just money that we didn't pick up during that time. And that's what we're trying to do, is make sure we're cleaning everything up.
Right. And so the Bar will pretty much eliminate something like this happening, or
So,
it's, or is
so
it
let
magic?
me
It's
touch
not
on that a
magical.
little bit. No, let me touch on that. Yeah. So, and I forgot to mention, over the weekend, our IT department and Larry Wickham, they were able to transfer us from the like on-site server status that we were using Genzavar to the cloud base. So we are now operating on that cloud base that was part of our. And then also, like the last week or two, they were able, Blanca and Larry Wickham and I think Aaron played a part in that, Quinn from Synoptics were able to get everything lined out. And so now we can start, don't quote me on this, but we have much more reporting capability than we had before. So like one of the requests we got from the state auditor for the special audit was they wanted 5 years of the general ledger. Well, we couldn't have done that before, but I think Blanca was able to kind of process that out in a few hours and send them a copy of that. So we, and you know, she said over and over she hates it that now that we're starting to get that process that she's leaving. But I think we're gonna continue to move forward in that, and we won't see that million. Now, is there any question that we spent that million, you know, that we went over 2 million or so over? No, we know that, but it just didn't, we just didn't have our numbers where they need to be. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
It's still,
We just had
it's
a
still
heck
a
of a mess
miracle.
to get it cleaned up.
Yeah, and you know, I can't remember if I mentioned last time, but so Blanca was finally able to get the budget into Genzabar. And so what that means is not only can we print some things out of synoptics, the different reports, trial balance and other reports, but now we should be very close to the point where we can print out a report monthly for the board meeting where it will show, okay, here's what our budget is for this year. Here's what we've spent so far this year in that budget at each line item. And then what do we have left, which is what I'm used to seeing or having just, you know, ready, but that's a big step.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's kind of exciting.
Yes, it is exciting. I'm looking forward to that. So, by submitting this, we should have our FY 2023 budget submitted and everything to HEB that they need.
Yeah, now let me add a caveat to that. So we don't have our 22 audit completed yet. So are these numbers exact? Probably not, but they're I can confidently say they're much closer than they've been at least the last year or two. And you know, there may be some adjustments once that 22 audit comes out, but we can't wait for the audit. And that's, HED understands that. They know that we're waiting on that audit. That'll give us some figures to start the 22-23 year, and then we'll go from there, if that makes sense.
Yes, for sure. I understand as soon as we get our 22 audit, there may be some adjustments. But this is our best guess for right now.
Yeah.
Any other questions on this? Do we have a motion to approve this FY 23 bars?
I move we approve this revised fiscal year 23 bar budget adjustments.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
Mr. Primrose?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell?
Yes.
And Mr. Fox?
Yes.
And the motion carried.
All right. Next on the agenda is FY 24 foundation property leasing. You have a copy of the total that they're requesting, and then the lease agreement. Dr. Mark?
So, if I could say a couple things, and then I think Mr. Bittigan, I'm going to point to him and let him talk a little. You know, I had a chance to visit with Mr. Bittigan a little before the meeting, and I want to say a couple things before we, you know, I had spoken to the foundation board at their last meeting and said, you know, one, we don't have that in our budget at this point. And that may have been an oversight or whatever, but at the same time, Blanca had to cut a lot of money out of some operational expenses just to get it to balance, and that's kind of what we're operating as if we are short. And so what I told the foundation board was, you know, I'd at this point don't know that we will have the money to pay any leases this year. It's not 100% that we won't, but at this point I have to operate as if we don't have money for anything like that until we get a better picture of our budget and how we're operating for the year. And so I just wanted to pass that on. And I also want to say, you know, absolutely not that the foundation hasn't helped in several areas already this year, and I think we're building maybe a better relationship than we've had in the, I don't know, I can't speak to the past, but I think we have really good communication. But at this point, you know, I can't say to you all that we will have the money to pay any leases. So I just want to say that. Mr. Brigetti, again, I'm going to turn it over to you if you want to add anything.
Mr. Chairman and members of the board, yes, well, Dr. Moss has expressed that the LFC and the State Board of Finance doesn't think that the foundation has helped the college enough in this situation, but
I just said they asked that question, and that's the impression I got. I want to be clear that I didn't mislead you, but we did get questions. We did get questions about that, and that was the impression I got.
okay, thank you. I'll stand corrected there. But the foundation has helped a lot in many ways, and part of this lease money is used to that, so it's really going there and then coming back. And I want to get these leases signed again for this year, because as we've gone through the wreck, that's just the college has lost the line item or whatever it is, and I think that it would be good to get it back on there for the future. I mean, if we might be able to forgive the money, but I mean I just don't want to change things up from the way they were set up. But I think that, I mean, the college uses these properties, most of them anyway, and the equine center, I think, is well used for the rodeo program, and it's a great deal in recruiting and stuff. And the radio tower there, we lease that to you, and it's used. I think they have a broadcast on that all the time. The Alco building is a lease, and the college hadn't been storing stuff in there, but I know the CDL, they were testing on it yesterday, or Sunday anyway.
Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday, so the college is using that, and so I would just like to get the leases on the deal, and we'd go from there, because I think in the future years, they need to be on there.
So if the leases are on there,
Go ahead.
so if the leases are on there and the college can't pay, so that really shows that the Mesalands is contributing something
Yes.
towards college. If LFC and the SBOF, you know, balk at it or whatever, we could say, well, look, here's a lease agreement, even though we're not getting money this year for it, that's our contribution, or foundation contribution towards the college.
Well, there's been other contributions even in this
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
The Stampede Village contract and the Dinosaur Museum Storage Building were both paid for by the foundation. Not as a loan, which I tried, but the president wouldn't go for it, but an outright contribution.
So if we do approve these leases, money to budget this. How are we gonna pay for it? That's the question. And that may be for our finance person. If we approve the leases, we're saying we're going to add, $54,800 into our expenses for the college for this year.
You turn that anyway.
Am I out of place?
It's college property.
Am I out of place to say something from the past? So from the past, in 2020, they changed it in 2020. There's a board meeting. I believe there was that the foundation only charged $1 for a couple of years because of a financial problem they had prior. I think it was 2017, 2018. They charged $1 per lease, and then in 2020, I think is when the board meeting was, that they said, well, now we're going to start paying those leases, and the foundation has increased those. But I can look at the board notes, but that was, I don't know if anybody's aware of that from that time period.
I don't know. I know a lot of things have changed since then, but I don't remember that part. I thought it belonged to the college, the land is just pay leases for the foundation.
Yeah, that was before my time too, also. But I know in the leases that,
I'm sorry, that was Mr. McVeigh that said that.
Okay.
So I guess my question is, if we approve these leases and we end up not having the money to pay for them, then what happens? We just sit here and hope that the foundation will forgive, or will we have to put that in next year's budget and work at getting caught up on that over a period of time?
Well, and I don't, Mr. Primrose brought up a important point. Because basically, well, I'm not sure that we don't have it budgeted for. Obviously, we could make an amendment. You know, I don't foresee us being able to do that as soon as October, November. But could we? I think it would come down to this is really projecting, but I think, you know, my hope is we come out of this year scraping by so that we can start next year, and that next year might look a little better than this year. That's kind of my hope. But would we have the money to make up for previous year? I don't, if that's what you're asking, I don't see that we'd be able to do that. If we couldn't do it this year, would we have enough to do it next year? Well, that's a,
Yeah, and
yeah,
if
we
we have
don't
to
know.
spread it out over 2 or 3 years, is it agreeable with the foundation to allow us to do that, you know, to not catch up all in 1 year, but over a period of 2 or 3 years a little bit?
So do you mean like,
In other words, basically we would have it as a loan. They would be as a loan to us if we can't pay. You know?
I'm not going to recommend any type of loan. That's what we were talking about, the other ways the foundation helped. I was emphatic. I'm like, don't, you can't even consider it a loan, because there's no way we could guarantee paying that back. And I wouldn't want to make that commitment. It's just my opinion. I wouldn't want to make that commitment or even consider that till we have a better picture of what things look like. That's not a great answer.
So like, that's what I'm saying too. If we we approve it, we're saying we've gotta put it in the budget. Because we're saying we're gonna spend this money. And right now, HED, we're not going to do any bars for the 2024 until, we're talking about May, right? April, May, somewhere in there.
I think we may look at a bar maybe no, I think we have to submit a bar in November. That's statutorily required. You can submit more than that, but we have to submit one by November.
Mr. Bennigan, would you entertain us tabling this until November?
Sure. I think I can get that by the board.
And then we'll have a better handle of where our budget is, because that'll be our first bar for this current year. If Mr. Benton will allow us to do that, I entertain a motion to table Exhibit 5 until November.
I move that we table this till November.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
and Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
And the motion carried to table this until November.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Benton. I appreciate your help. Okay, next on the agenda is Exhibit 6, Purchase Requisition 116864
So,
for $34,500.
so this is a contract to continue using Larry Wickham as our consultant for the Ginzabar transition. He is, I think I've mentioned in the past, he is also serving as kind of our program lead. And so, and that takes some weight off our IT department because it's almost a full-time job. You know, he's responsible for setting up all of our trainings, making sure people show up to those trainings, make sure they understand what they heard in those trainings, and then providing some training on his own. And there are a lot of things tied to Ginzabar. You know, like our payroll right now, we do an ADP, but we're going to be transitioning January 1st back to Ginzabar, so we have everything in one system and we don't have trouble converting the data over. And so, but when you talk about finance, academics, student records, all that stuff, it's, you know, he's playing a critical part in our transition. And also, so this would come out of HB2. Last year's came out of the State Board of Finance grant, but this will come out of, you know, HB2 is set aside to help us, you know, with some of those things that we carried over that are still issues, and will help finance some of that.
So this will come out of HQ2 and something that is extremely needed for the complete Ginzabar. Any other questions on this requisition? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve Vex Consulting.
I'll make a motion to approve the requisition for Vex Consulting.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call please.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
and Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
and Mr. Primrose.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve requisition 116864.
All right, our next on the agenda is the purchase requisition 116915 for the rodeo with, Mike Johnson for the, livestock for the rodeo, which I agree with, is gonna be great for Mesalands to host these two rodeos. Have any questions, or is there any comments? Now to entertain a motion to approve this requisition so that we could have our two rodeos in October.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve requisition 116915 to Mike Johnson for the rodeo.
All right. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
and Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve requisition 116915.
All right. Next is, purchase requisition 116922, mooring recovery. This is for, the mold of building E. And my understanding, the insurance has paid this, we're just, they paid the college, and so the college is gonna, let's have approval so that we can pay the contract.
Right. Really, that payment should have went from the insurance directly to Moore. They were the first contractor on the mold remediation. But instead, for some reason, they sent it to us, and so we just need to turn around and send it to them, and it's coming to you all because it's over the 20,000 threshold.
Okay, thank you, so, money we receive, we're just gonna send it to the contractor. Any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve requisition 116922.
Go ahead.
A motion and second, roll call?
Who seconded?
I guess I did.
Okay. I didn't hear
Let's
it,
get ahead of
okay.
myself.
Okay, Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
And Mr. Sidwell.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve requisition 116922.
Right, thank you. Next is, academic affairs, Mr. Kaiser.
I want to make one comment on these requisitions, that I think it's really a lot better the way you've got this in here now. It shows it from the person actually requesting and how it goes through the approval process. So I think it's a lot better than what we have.
Yes.
I agree. Mr. Kaiser.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you have the academic affairs report in front of you. And I just wanted to take some time and highlight some areas of student and faculty success. Number one would be we have 3 paleontology program students, Ryan Brown, Joseph Soto, and Mike Torino, who were awarded the Lucille Pipkin Book Scholarship Award by the New Mexico Geological Society. Amazing success for Dr. Hunger over there. We also have a lot of critical research happening at the Dinosaur Museum as well. And this happens because of the need for these lab-based fieldwork sites that we can offer here, where a lot of these four-year universities do not have access to these resources, these dig sites. So we had Sam Houston State University out of Huntsville, Texas. They brought up 17 students. We also have Appalachian State University, North Carolina, and they visited the science lab, and they also worked some of the specimens, I believe, and took their party out to Apache Canyon and another dig site. So again, having that critical research where you might have master's or doctoral level students working alongside our associate's degree students, they get to see the full payoff of this degree, this program. They get to see it actually applied. So I'm hoping that these wonderful activities and outreach continue with Axel. And it's part of Axel, a big part of Axel and his attitude and presence in the field. It's also his students. He has amazing students, and his alumni usually come back as well and help support these activities. And then, of course, we can't forget our museum curator, director, Lonnie. She does some amazing work with our students as well for that space. So thank you guys for your efforts there. Other areas, we had this amazing breakthrough with our IT team assisting the library, so now we can conduct critical research through our database access. So we can access databases from outside the campus for our students, so they can actually log in at home and log on to WorldCat or JSTOR databases to do their research from a remote site, instead of having to come into town, do the research here, which of course we always want them to come into town and come on campus, but this allows them to research from anywhere. And it's more specific for those students that we serve in the corrections area. So now it'll give those students the same quality access point for this research.
Is that available to the dual credit?
It is. It is. And talking a little bit about our corrections, we're now right in the middle of our corrections offerings for the fall semester, where we have 27 courses offered, 3 degrees offered, and 2 certificates, 1 or 2 certificates out for the 9 correctional sites we support. And just some numbers. The average class, the majority of those 27 classes are now full. And class size at the beginning was anywhere from 8 to 10. Now we're seeing 22 as a max, so that's really wonderful there. And our total enrollment as of today for corrections was 178, and before we walked into the board meeting, we added an extra 70. So I think we're doing really good with enrollment in that area. Other bullet point, I wanted to take a moment to thank Dr. Hackett for working with our HLC team and the advisors that come through. The feedback I did receive, which it's not an official review, from one of our reviewers. She pulled me aside and I thought I was in trouble, because usually when they separate you. And she just wanted to point out that she found it very unique that our faculty and staff are willing to work together in a way to serve our students, instead of some of the events she's witnessed at other colleges and universities where the faculty are against the administration or vice versa. And she thought that really spoke to their passion for serving our students. So I just wanted to point that out, and that all goes back to we
have a talented and amazing faculty and staff. We have a lot of history of serving our students, and when we're able to actually put it to practice, I think it speaks really well. So I want to take a moment to thank our faculty and staff there. The rest of the report, of course, you have in front of you. Any questions about the remainder of the academic affairs report?
Any other questions for Mr. Fisher?
I have one. What about the dual credit? Is it going real good? Am I fairly good?
I think it's going really well. There's always room for improvement, and that's part of our outreach as we start to recruit for the spring semester. So we've got our academic affairs team and our student affairs team will start planning pretty soon for the spring offerings, and working with those high school counselors to see if there's unique offerings that we can actually serve more directly to those institutions.
My other question was, is the high school doing any good or anything for dual credit for the kids?
Is our high school Tucumcari High?
Are they
Well,
helping out on that, or they just?
I think they're doing really well. We have a really good communication with the high school counselor and the principal. And there's been some ideas about having there's a class called the First Year Experience. And that's a class that gets your feet wet as a brand new student, but it gives you all the tools you need to succeed for those non-traditional or first generation students, those college students. So we're actually talking about hosting that class at main campus over here at Tucumcari High. So as that develops, I would see those students there's students that are a little less comfortable to come to campus. They might be shy or they're not ready yet, but for them to host that class right there where they can still walk across the street and experience how to do research in the library, or they get an understanding on how our systems work before they even get here. And that'll help them be that much more prepared when they're actually here. And even in a lot of cases, a lot of these students, they don't realize that we have these amazing labs. We have this amazing foundry. We have the paleontology lab, the nursing sim lab. And we found that out when we had the tours of the high school from Fort Sumner. I think it was Fort Sumner when they were here. And they were blown away. They had no idea that this resource was right here.
Right here. Oh, okay.
So it's so important that we get that communicated and then bring them back in as well. You know, whether it's just a day field trip or some practice would be kind of a high school day where we have multiple high schools on campus. So that's a couple of ways that we're reaching out for the high school students.
I had a question. How early can the students start taking advantage of the doing?
At one time, it was 9th grade, I think we're seeing 10th grade now. I'm not sure what the rules are specific to Tucumcari High. And they also vary with students that are homeschooled students. They're not locked into the district rules. For the most part now, I think it's 11th and 12th grade students.
I just remembered when I worked for the schools that it changed several times throughout, so I just wondered.
The schools, yeah, like Joel said, the schools usually have like a guideline when they would allow them, but what I've seen too is, if you have a very gifted 9th grader, that is going to fly through the curriculum at the high school, then they will start them earlier. And then that's, a lot of times if somebody's set on graduating with their associates, they may start before 11th grade just to make it a little easier.
took that off when the nuisance was here in the board travel.
The board for you guys to travel?
You still
We'll have
have
to,
it? and they
I'll have to
took that
find that out. I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm not sure.
Several years ago, there was a money crunch or something, and
We're in one right now.
yeah, not, it wasn't this bad. But
Yeah.
they stopped the.
If we don't have it now, it was not intentional, it's just trying to cut everything back, even like our travel for, you know, the president or VPs or faculty, we limited that to just what do we have to do, you know?
Mhm.
And so, but we can look at that and see.
Because I was the only one that used to travel a lot
Yeah.
when I was
We-
in diversity. And I like to go talk to them schools that I talk to, the rural areas. I wanna see how they're doing, if the state's treated them good or bad. Because the worst school that we had was the one in Texaco.
Mhm.
We had a lot of problems. And I like to go back and talk to them, see if the state's doing any good for them or they just ignored them or whatever's happening.
I think that'd be a great idea. And we can always send recruiting materials out with you as well,
Yeah.
you know.
I'd like to talk to them just to see what's going on.
Any other questions for Mr. Pastor? If not, we'll move to the Community Education Annual Report.
So for the Community Ed Annual Report, this report was prepared by Kim Enriquez. She's an amazing member of our academic affairs team, and she's been working on building the Community Ed outreach program pretty much from the ground up. Over the last year or so, we had went dormant on offering these Community Ed courses, and over the summer was the jump start of the Community Ed program, which was a summer adventure camp, and they had around 125 students. And these are students of various ages, kind of that K through 12 target audience there. There were 5 classes over the summer. We also partnered with Trio STEM from Eastern New Mexico. So there was a lot of activity this summer, esports, arts and crafts, beautiful ballerinas. So the trick is to find a balance that serves all these different families in this community. And then most definitely a schedule that serves them well is needed as well. So we had that activity. Other community ed classes that are planned. We have activities that bring students on campus for more of after-school programs or mentorship, and some are as simple as let's play cards and board game programs or courses. Others are to focus on book reading, the experience of reading, using our library. There's some arts and crafts classes, photo basics, teaching people how to just take a photo with good lighting, develop it and print it through Photoshop, because we don't really develop anymore, right? We Photoshop everything. I see a basic quilting class as well. Again, I want to stress that these offerings are for a non-traditional student population that are not seeking degrees, but they're seeking something where they're either gaining extra skills or it's for some sort of enjoyment or fulfillment. So this is another focus we have, another direction here at Mesalands, where not only do we serve the degree-seeking student, but we have a need to very much serve the community as well. And what else? We have a breakdown of the donations that we receive to make some of these events happen. We have revenue. So a lot of really wonderful data here that'll help us predict the best way to offer these courses in the future as well. And most importantly, it helps us become a little more viable and sustainable in the areas of offering a community ed program, because after we set the framework and we're able to offer these classes, they do generate revenue after we get them started. So it's a combination of getting the word out, good advertising, and then programming a really wonderful event for the public, and for the community.
It looked like there was lots of participation and well supported, and thank Mr. Enriquez for good work.
Great work.
Any other questions for Mr. Kaiser? Thank you for all of your work. It was a great report, and we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Student Affairs, Mr. McVeigh.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board.
Mr. McVeigh.
Yes, so I wanted to cover just a couple high points from the report that I've submitted to the board. One is that our main campus, having students on campus increase, has been very exciting, and a lot of energy on campus. As you can see from our strategic enrollment management and financial aid part of the report there, we've had 232 students on campus. Our corrections, as Mr. Kaiser mentioned, is at 178, and of course we have more that have just come in, many more, and then dual at 129. So we are excited to have all these students, as I said, on campus and interacting in student life. Something else I wanted to highlight under enrollment and financial aid is that the Phys app is due on Friday, and we're getting that done. The DEER report has been completed. Ms. Gonzalez has done a wonderful job with financial aid and overseeing those and ensuring that we're getting our reports in on time and correctly, as well as disbursement being a successfully completed as well. In athletics, as you can see, we have our golf team has 4 members. They come from Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. Rodeo has 16 athletes, and then esports has 6. So we have students that are being involved and active in our athletics, and we're excited to see that, as well as our upcoming rodeo, which is October 13th and 14th, and we have the distinct pleasure of being able to host 2 rodeos in one weekend. So we have graciously been able to extend the opportunity to another college to host their rodeo here with us at Mesalands, so we're very excited to do that. So that means that Friday will be a rodeo, and then Saturday will be another rodeo. So there'll be crowning of champions both nights. So it'll be exciting all the way through. And of course, slack begins in the morning and then goes on through. The gates will open up at 5, and we'll begin performances at 6. So love to see everybody there for that as well. Recruitment and institutional advancement. We have Julio, who's been out, of course, a recruiter, who's out on the road right now for our college fairs and staying active and doing a wonderful job there. He wanted to mention in his report as well, his section on institutional advancement, some of the grants, of course, that we've been pursuing, and Senator Heinrich has submitted 1 or more congressionally directed spending requests on our behalf to the Senate Appropriations Committee, and so we're very grateful for that. And the Foundry, of course, that has been approved and going through, so we're excited about those developments. So those are all very exciting developments that we've seen on the institutional side with grants that are coming out. And then marketing, of course, continues with recruiting and ensuring that we have the materials that we need to reach out to students and recruit, and getting information out there for everyone about our wonderful programs that we have. Pre-enrollment will start in October, as we're going to begin doing our pre-enrollment for the spring. So we're excited about that as well. We had Constitution Day, as it's been mentioned earlier, but it was a great success. It was great to see the great room, of course, full, as we had Senator Woods, who was gracious enough to come and speak on the Constitution. And that was very, very wonderful to have him here, and we were very happy to have him. So we've had activities that are ongoing for our students. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to go to the theater Thursday night, The Equalizer 2 will be showing, and so students are able to go to the Odeon and watch movies by showing their ID. And we had an activity today as well, and we continue to have activities for our students to connect and build community. So those are just some highlights that I wanted to bring to your attention from the report. But if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
I'd like to say I was real impressed with the number of students we had show up for Constitution Day. It was packed. It was a great turnout by the students.
We were very excited to see the student turnout for that activity. And I want to say Dr. Edwards did a fantastic job putting that together. He is our chair and our resident historian, and he just really did a fantastic job with that event.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. McVeigh?
Who's the other college in the rodeo?
It's Dene College from Arizona.
Oh, okay.
Dene College in Arizona. So we'll be hosting for them.
You're going to have the same announcer that done for rodeo?
We will. We'll have the same. So I don't know if it's the exact same person. I know for the 2 nights will be the same individual, I believe, for those 2 nights. Same announcers for those 2 nights.
Because I like the guy that talked during the rodeo.
In the past couple of years.
Yeah.
I'm not certain on the company that was chosen. I can't speak to that definitely, but I know that for those 2 nights it will be the same announcer. Is it the same one from last year? I can't say for certain on that.
I was just wondering because I like the way he talked and said things.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
That's it.
Not, Mr. McVeigh, thank you very much for your report and all that you do for the college.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next we'll go to the August financial report. Dr. Moss?
So I'm gonna set in for Blanca one more time, and then I'll probably just be me on my own. So, if you have any questions about the financial report, a couple things I would point out. I think we started putting in, the like the checks written, in addition to the EFOP report that Chief fills out weekly and monthly. And I can't remember if I mentioned this before. She has transitioned that to Tammy Hall, and Tammy's been doing a great job at getting that out on time to HED. And so I don't know if it'll be her or me in the interim presenting this, but tonight you got me. One thing on the EFOP report, again, we still haven't had to tap into that HB2 money. We're kind of that borderline where over the next month or two we'll start seeing some of the financial aid money come in. We'll see some money from the correction students, whether it's the directly from the New Mexico Corrections Department or the private facilities or the Opportunity Scholarship or federal financial aid. And so it'll just be kind of a balance on, how far can we make it till that point, and then until January when our the local tax comes in. But, you know, right now, we're still holding good on just our appropriation and the other revenues that we've got in to meet our expenses. So we'll have to tap into it some, but, again, the longer we go without doing that just shows, you know, we're running pretty close to where we need to be. With that, I'll answer any questions.
I appreciate the list of expenditures that's in the report this time, for the whole year, it looks like. At least we have some expenditures, I appreciate that. Any other questions for, Dr. Moss on the financials? Now, I entertain a motion to approve the August financial report.
So moved.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second, roll call please.
Mr. Sandoval,
Yes.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
and Mr. Box.
Yes.
And the motion carried to approve the August financial report.
Right, next is Mr. Martinez.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll start off with the capital projects. Hit a little bit of a hiccup, a little bit of a slowdown. Been communicating with HED and the contractor to get the contractor back on site for the Building A project. Things are going good. Communication has increased, so that's moving forward. Also submitted the paperwork required to HED to make that happen. So we'll be getting close to hopefully getting something situated by beginning of next week, if not the end of this week. Also had a chance to speak with Mr. Swap after receiving the amendment, amendment number 1 for the reauthorization of funds for grant number D3432. That was the original grant that installed the dual axis tracker for the solar project, it was earmarked for a solar project here at the community college. With that, we have an additional $212,000 available through that same grant that were reauthorized, and also $100,000 that had been previously reauthorized that were earmarked to do some work at the old armory. It was for the nursing program, and since the nursing program was actually housed out of Building A, we were able to save that money. It was no longer needed for renovations to build out classroom space that would be needed to host that. So that's also going into the solar project, so we have about a total of $312,000. So after we've discussed some ideas of what's going to happen with that, now we could go into the planning phase where we're going to be reaching out and procuring some engineering services, and Mr. Swap will be accompanying me to help out to have his vision what he feels is best for the solar project to move forward with that. Tying in with capital, and it's not on my report, but things seem to always happen or hit right after the reports go out or things are overseen. I don't put it on there, but after the great ceremony for Constitution Day the other day, I had the opportunity to take Senator Woods out and show him some of the projects and what the money that we received through them with their support through capital outlay requests, what it's going to. So I was able to walk him through and show him the Building A project, go out and show him what's been done for the solar project to date, and then also discuss some of the upcoming concerns to kind of get that seed planted to let them know what we may be requesting capital outlay funds for this next legislative session to stay proactive and ahead of it. So I showed him some of the infrastructure issues we've had throughout the buildings, told him kind of the same thing I've told the board as well, that there are some concerns still trying to figure out what exactly the insurance is going to cover, and whatever they do not cover based on our infrastructure capital improvement plan that was submitted, our summer hearing project that we presented. That's the bulk of our needs, is make sure we secure our infrastructure. With that, I'll go into some information and update on the insurance. After our last meeting, I did have a chance to meet with James Ortega, the insurance adjuster. I'd like to thank him for really moving forward and pushing forward for the mold remediation that had to take place in Building E. We were worried about it, and to be honest, after their professional expertise in going in there, they were able to state that we were able, I think this happened maybe on a Tuesday, by that Thursday, we were able to have staff and students back in that building if we chose to. Just to make sure everything was done, we waited till Monday to go ahead and release everybody back into the building. I was actually able to stay there, and some of the other staff were able to stay within the building because they were able to remediate it so quickly. They went in and completely removed all the mold, sanitized everything, cleaned everything up, contained everything off with some thick meal plastic and some duct tape, so it's all sealed off until the roof can be fixed. An update on that. Still going back and forth with the insurance about the roof. They were very proactive after we had a discussion, and were able to get 1 or 2 contractors on site to actually analyze the roof and state to see if there's actually extensive damage from the hail or from the storm event. We have a little bit of a difference of opinions, but we're still fighting to make sure we get those roofs recovered. If not, the biggest concern is the drainage. The roof did not leak prior to that storm event, not in specific areas, and it was leaking from the drains and it's running down the walls, and that's what, in my opinion, created the mold. And I believe we're in agreement with that. The issue is they feel that the roof is not in that bad of a condition, and looking at it, I'm not an expert on roofing, but some areas look really well, but my concern are on the seams, are on the edge, and again, the drainage. So we're continuing to work on that to get that done as soon as possible. Going into procurement, we've been changing some processes. We had some training, can't remember if it was this Monday or last Monday already, all the days tied together, but everybody that's a requester for requisitions was in attendance. I'd like to thank Mr. Larry Wickham for the training. And the reason behind this is, even if some staff has been here previously, we wanted a refresher, and we want to make sure everybody's on the same page, providing the same information on those requisitions to make sure that we're following state procurement, local procurement, and in doing so, it also helps us with our asset management by providing more of a description and more information in those. It makes it easier for future reports to be ran, to be able to pull the assets, because we need to track them. The threshold at the state level is 5,000. Locally through Mesalands it's 1,000. So anything that has a value of 1,000 and above needs to be tagged and show that it's property of Mesalands Community College. That way we can start coming up with replacement plans. Maybe we can't do all the laptops or computers in 1 year unless we were to receive some type of grant. So we have to start phasing those and replace things a little at a time. With that, that kind of ties into the next step with IT. Today we had training for InfoMaker, which ties in with Genzabar. And again, that's more positive news because that helps us as staff and all the module managers go into InfoMaker and pull new reports. So Genzabar already has their CAN reports that are just kind of a generic report that gets basic needs done. But to help assist with some of the data that we need for different reports and for grants and whatnot, and some financial reports, we're learning how to go into InfoMaker and create those reports. And that'll be very beneficial in the future, where it should streamline things. We're not having to export things into Excel and have these kind of reports we're having to fabricate on our own. We'll fabricate it once through InfoMaker, and we'll have that for years and years to come in the future. And it streamlines things where it's automated. That way we're not having to do things manually anymore. So we're getting past that. That went well, and we'll have our next training, I believe, on October 10th. There's 4 different sessions. Very optimistic. I think great attendance, great teaching from the person putting on the class. So very good news coming out of that. We do have quite a few vacancies. Unfortunately, we've had some vacancies come up both on the maintenance and custodial, just the maintenance and groundskeeping side of things, and we also have an opening that just became available on our IT side. We're still in the process of getting ready to close the application process to fill the IT director and the facilities director positions. Still working on the HR director position. We've been getting quite a few resumes and applications, honestly, for the HR side of things. However, I believe some of those applicants are seeking a higher salary, which we can't afford at this time. Due to our tight budget, we have to stick within those constraints of the budget. So great applicants. Hopefully we could find somebody that could fill those same needs for a salary that we could pay and offer at this time.
And we're actually reclassifying that from a HR director to looking for maybe a HR generalist or HR manager, keeping the pay where we can manage it, but if we could find someone even with just some of the skills, you know, with the new attorney we have, we feel confident that we could support that, so.
Correct. So if anybody knows anybody looking for a job or anybody listening tonight, we have plenty of job opportunities. Please submit your applications, your resumes.
Nobody wants to work.
And with that, I'd stand for any further questions if you have any. Thank you.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Martinez?
I tell him good luck to finding help, because here in Tunica, nobody wants to work.
One thing, Mr. Chair, that I prefer.
Martinez.
What's that? Sorry about that, sir.
Thank you very much. I said I appreciate all you do for the college, Mr. Martinez. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
If there's any other.
One last thing I had, that this came in also after the report, and I just remembered, at a previous meeting I had mentioned we were waiting on some funds from HED for our GEO bond for the library. I'm happy to announce that we did receive that within the last week or two. So we received the $9,000 that we had spent. It was a true reimbursement, so we've been reimbursed, which will replenish those funds. So just want to let y'all know that as well.
No, that's good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next on the agenda is Ms. Monahan.
Yes, I am your halftime entertainment.
All right.
And you have the packet, I believe. I'd like to go to the second page before we get into what's happening at the museum or what has happened in the last 4 years. The second page is the financials and the comparisons between last fiscal year and the year before. And the last year's was severely impacted by the fact that we had our billboards taken down, except for one of them. The one on the east side of town was indicative of the number of people that signed into the museum and told us where they were from. We had, over the summer, we had 32 people come to the museum from the west side. The rest were all from the east side. So that tells you the impact of our billboards. We do know that 80% of the visitors that come to the museum come because of the billboards, because we ask them. So as you can see, it is, we're down in every category the same amount. So I understand from Josh McVeigh that we do have the other billboards. They're up, and I've already seen people from Arizona come flying into the museum, so we're thrilled with that. And Josh, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And now, which way is wrong way? Okay, Axel and I wanted to present to you everything that we've done at the museum for the last 4 years since I've come to the museum. And in that, let's see, wrong way. You can't read that from here. How about there?
I'd turn them both off.
Would you?
Well, pretend we're in a movie theater.
I wonder, you weren't falling asleep. Okay.
There you go. That's much better.
All right. The Howard Shanks mineral display we created it during COVID. Since Axel and I could both go to the museum, we worked all the way through together. We drew from 50,000 specimens that were donated, and created a display, as you can see there, of 352 specimens. And we did. So that is the student research presentation. The one on the left side, we updated it about a month ago because it had not been updated in about 18 years. So we now have all current findings by the students, by the volunteers that come, and so we consider that a brand new display. We also have in the center a phytosaur that was found in our county by a volunteer by the name of Ridge Power. He came up from Alabama. He comes up every year to volunteer at the museum, go out on digs with Axel, and he found this, and then over the last couple of years he's prepped it, identified it, and we just put it in a case to show the public. And on the right-hand side, we have the new petrified wood display. We have New Mexico petrified wood, and then different woods from palm trees and different areas in New Mexico. As you can see, the lower cabinets just got finished last week, and we will be filling those with different types of petrified wood, and it's amazing how beautiful and different petrified wood can be. So we're very excited about that. We have put in new displays or activities for the kids, which is a big draw in our community because for after school and vacations we get a lot of children in. So we not only have a coloring round table in the back is the reading table, and it's supplied with young people's reading material that their parents come and entertain the kids while they're there. We have families that stay an hour, hour and a half just because the kids like that. The center is a huge puzzle of a triceratops, and we now offer a education on that triceratops by identifying all the bones in layman's terms, not scientific, but then we have a sheet that the kids can go out and find each one of the bones on the sheet and learn about a triceratops. We also have the students' research posters up as a display so that we can show what Mesalands paleontology program actually does. These are the research papers that are required for graduation that the program students do with Axel, and we've had a couple that have done quite well at the conference that they have to present these at. The museum activities, since these are Axel's, no, these are mine. Axel, you have anything to say about these?
I can read it, so I don't think I need to repeat everything.
Okay. So Axel works tirelessly in the lab, and he has 3 volunteers that have come. One volunteer comes all the way from Georgia, and he comes twice a year and spends a month at the lab. We have another one that comes from Alabama. He comes twice a year and spends up to a month. And again, he has all the classes and goes out at least once a month into the field. And these are all the things that he's listed, that he's identified, and you can read that on your own. We totally gave the gift shop a major uplift, facelift. We painted everything. We rearranged all the shelves. We brought in new inventory. And we replaced toe kicks, and all of that, very appreciative, and it's nice and fresh looking. So we also changed the admission prices, and everybody was hesitant about doing so because they thought if we went from $6 to $8 for an adult that people would balk at the price. Well, everyone says it's a bargain at $8, so maybe we'll raise it to 10. We are now selling cold drinks, but again, that is just it does well seasonal when it's hot out during the summer. We sell lots of cold drinks. We have personalized mouse pads. If anyone here would like one, we can certainly get you one for both the museum and the college. And again, I said about the new inventory that includes our t-shirts, and we went to more simplified t-shirts, and as you can see, License to Carry Small Arms has been very popular in the Southwest. We also put a display together of all of the dinosaur figurines that we have sold, and this company makes up to, I think they're up to about 600 now, but they retire each one of their figurines to make them more valuable. If somebody comes in, I've had two children, well, two 12-year-olds that came in with $500 apiece. They've saved all their allowance so that they could buy as many figurines as they could for their collection. Very popular. We have run out of the Tucson minerals that we bought in Tucson, so now we do have to purchase our minerals for resale. Hopefully a budget in the next couple years will afford us to go back to the Tucson Mineral Show. And we do have lots of community involvement. We 4 years ago started with the Health Council, the Quay County Health Council, a scavenger hunt. It has now gone out to all the museums, and the kids come. It's free admission day. They do the scavenger hunt, and whether or not they can fill out identify everything, they get a prize at the end. We've had a lot of school tours this past year from all the different schools in the county. Also, as Joel mentioned, we have had groups from different states come, from different museums come, homeschool tours have come. So we are getting recognized nationally as one of the best small museums in the country for dinosaurs. We currently have 4 active volunteers and 3 program students that help Axel. Last summer, not this past summer, but the summer before, we tried the One Pass program, and we ran into a couple stumbling blocks that I think when we can work together as a community, and what that is, there it is. The One Pass is you pay once at any of these museums, and you'll get a ticket that will give you free admission or walk in without having to purchase a ticket to these 3 museums. Plus, the Wynn Center allowed us to go in and give tours to the public, which was, I got to learn how to do that. It was very, very interesting. So we're hoping that if we start earlier in the year, we can do the One Pass next summer. And let's see. Okay, Josh and his employees and director, who's no longer here, you're our director.
Rob.
Yeah, Rob, have been absolutely phenomenal getting us new marketing material that has a pop to it. And this is a new billboard that just went up, and I think it'll grab everyone's attention. All we want them to do is see Dinosaur Museum and a dinosaur, and they'll come. we placed some iron from the foundry. There was some iron dinosaurs that had been around for years. So we brought them over, cleaned them up, and we planted them in the front of the museum now. And believe it or not, the neighbors in that neighborhood have come and thanked us for making the dinosaur museum look so nice. So one of the things that I really like to do is sponsor some of the athletic teams in town, the little guys, soccer, baseball, football, maybe the high schools, get our name, our logo, whether it's Mesalands Museum, a dinosaur museum, or just Mesalands College, but get on the athletic team so that everyone in Tucumcari can be wearing our name. And some of the future things I'd like to do, well, we'll finish the petrified wood display. I still am interested in trying to get an Oculus for virtual reality, where we can play continuous loop of a 3D film, and you put on the Oculus and it will feel like you are there in a field or underwater with live dinosaurs. So that would be excellent.
That would be nice.
Pardon?
That would be nice.
Oh, we've seen it, and it's pretty exciting. I know this is a long shot, but I have been reaching out to Sinclair Oil to see if they will sponsor us and give us some of their dinosaurs and place them around town and have businesses pay a minimal fee to be able to decorate the dinosaur, have it painted around town. And also we had talked about, and I had talked to the foundry about making a plaque for Craig Carrell and dedicating the exhibit hall to Craig Carrell. Also, possibly in the children's area, putting in a movie screen and having on a loop dinosaur movies, because those are big with the kids. Jurassic Park, you can't get enough of. We will be moving into the new storage building, and I have started exploring the Smithsonian affiliation. It is a long process. It's very detailed. We had somebody from the Smithsonian come into the museum over the summertime, and they couldn't have said how not, I mean, I was so pleased to see how pleased they were with our museum. They said one of the best small dinosaur museums that they had seen. So I'm going to start pursuing that. And that's it. Thank you.
I thought your billboard signs were blown away from the wind.
No,
No?
they weren't blown
They were
away
just-
from the wind.
They just old?
No,
No?
they were taken down to, for other needs when the last administration was here. So we're getting them back up.
Yeah, that's good.
Pardon?
That's good.
Yes.
I like that.
I'm gonna get that T-shirt for my wife, licensed to carry.
It was good.
Come on in, I'll give you a discount.
All right.
Okay.
Take one of those to
Christmas is
Albuquerque.
coming up.
I would also add, in addition to the Dinosaur Storage Museum, I think the foundation helps out in other ways with the museum as well, don't they?
Yes, the foundation has been exceptionally gracious and generous with the museum. All of the new exhibits are funded by the foundation. So everything I've done since I've been here, I've gone through the foundation and they have awarded the funds to create them. And our storage facility that got blown away without the foundation, we really, really need that storage facility. We are busting out of the seams in the main building, so thank you, foundation.
All right, Ms. Monahan, thank you for your presentation and all you do for the college and the museum.
Now, thank you all for letting me do that today.
You're gonna have to
Thank you for your support.
Yeah. I got a bunch of toys from the museum that I bought when they first started it. Dinosaurs and I forgot what the name of the elephants were. Lions. There you go. That's good, that's nice.
All right. Next on the agenda would be the faculty senate president, Ms. Griffith. Yes, sir.
Hello. I have to explain, I was not in a bar fight somewhere, but.
You should see the other guy.
Yeah, you see the other guy, that's true, yeah. I told Tom earlier I had a run-in with a skin cancer surgeon, so that was it. But at least my eyes are open today, so that's good. A couple days they weren't. I'm not gonna go read everything that I think, you have my little schedule, right, so I'm not gonna read everything. I'll tell you a little bit about my afternoon. When I came back right after lunch, I had this panic call from Andy that he had this steering committee coming and he couldn't find a single president anywhere.
I apologize for that.
And he couldn't find a president that would come and welcome them to Mesalands Community College. So the only president he could find was me. So he had to go down to the faculty senate president, but I said, I can do that, Andy. So I went over, and it was very nice, actually, it was very nice. I didn't know how many people there, but like 14 or 15 people, and then they had some on Zoom call too, so. Anyway, they toured the building, and then they had a meeting, and so I gave them a little pat on the back and welcome, and it was fun. They were very friendly, and it was interesting because there were people from different, like one lady, before we started, they had a little reception, some cookies and cheese and crackers, and they she was asking me, asked me what I taught, and I was telling her about early childhood, and so she wanted to know all about early childhood, and she wanted to know if we had seen a big increase in early childhood enrollment with the increase in early childhood funding. And I told her, no, I really haven't. She said, oh, that's interesting. She said, well, we're seeing a little bit in Albuquerque, but, so anyway, I had a little conversation with her, and she was going to try to keep in touch, and, I could welcome any ideas she had. But anyway, that was a fun little afternoon. One thing that after I'd done this report, I've got a couple things that PTK, the Phi Theta Kappa, is going to be starting up around the 1st of October, and student government will be holding elections, and that'll be starting. Greg told me too, he's trying to organize a readers theater production of the Halloween story, A Night in the Lonesome October. So anyway, he's working on that. And before they did it a chapter a week, and this time he wants to put it into 1 or 2 nights or something. So he said there will be more information coming forth on that. That seems like everybody's got things going on, and it's activity and students in the halls, and it's good. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Is there any questions for?
Good.
Nope.
All right.
Thanks for your report. Thanks for all that you do for the college.
All right.
Appreciate your work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the president.
Couldn't find him, huh?
All right. Next, I entertain the motion to go into executive session.
Let me say a few words before we go into it, because I want to talk to the board about certain things. I've talked to the Vicky Gutierrez from the hospital, talked to the city manager. Who else have I talked to? Oh, and I want Richard Primos I want you, Richard, to talk to the county manager. Tell him that I wanna meet with all of them here at the boardroom, but I gotta talk to the board, see what day we can do the meeting with. I mean, what day we can all meet, so we can talk to them, see if we can make Tucumcari grow or something. I talked to Vicky about the hospital, and I told her how I felt about the hospital. She said she was sorry that how I felt so bad, and I was, and I told her why I was against it. Our nurses to go to this hospital because they don't teach them a damn thing anyways. They don't have nothing. And then the way they treated them back in the 90s, I didn't like the way they treated them back then either. And I guess it's still going on, and I want to see if I can fix that.
No, we can't do anything about the past, but we'll look forward.
Yeah, forward.
All right.
So I need you to talk to the county managers to see when he can meet with us, so we can talk about what date. I know the first one I want to talk to is the hospital, because they have a bigger board. They have 10 people, and the rest of them have 5 or 3. And I want Mr. Moss to go to the schools and talk to the school board, talk to them about having the same meeting with us and the superintendent.
All right.
All right?
Anything else, we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I make a motion, we go into executive session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call please.
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell?
Yes.
Mr. Box?
Yes.
And Mr. Sandoval?
Yes.
And motion carried to go into executive session.
motion that we reconvene from the executive session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, roll call?
Mr. Primrose,
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box.
Yes.
And Mr. Sandoval.
Yes.
And motion carried to reconvene.
All right, thank you. There was no action, in executive session. We have no new business and no correspondence. We have our calendar and our reports. Excuse me, the next meeting will be on Tuesday, October 17th. And if there's not any other business, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion in the second, roll call please.
Ms. Stevenson,
Yes.
Mr. Sidwell,
Yes.
Mr. Box,
Yes.
Mr. Sandoval, and Mr. Primrose.
Yes.
And motion
All right.
to adjourn at 7:52.
All right, appreciate it.